for 1,000,000 hours, dude.
This will look real professional.
Yeah. Super professional, bro.
Corey, you need to come up with a better nickname. Corey Rose just isn't doing it for me.
Yeah, it's not working, dude. It's just not working.
How about C Rizzle and the Hizzle?
Rizzle and the Hizzle. Live and direct. Lou, yes, we're live and direct. All right.
No,
today,
I got one. Yeah. But Mike, I'm hearing it.
Yeah, we're getting some back feed.
Yeah, somebody's
It's probably the guy without headphones.
Yeah, somebody's
Well, that's odd. Let's see. I don't know where it's coming from then.
There you go.
Is it gone now? Because I did hear it when I'm muted.
Maybe.
All right. We're going to start off today with the April 1st day. This is Marcus. Marcus says, your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions. Is Marcus Aurelius is out of meditations. It's 516. Alex Green Pants and the Dragon. There we go. Dude, that's going to drive me nuts. 516.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from.
Pants and the Dragon. That's weird.
Is it you, C-Dog?
That is a weird. No,
it's not me.
That is a weird ass echo, dude.
Yeah, it is. It must be StreamYard.
It must be StreamYard. Let's blame StreamYard. That's crazy how when the fourth person comes in, the camera zooms out like a motherfucker, dude. That's weird. All right. That's crazy how this is my flock of seagulls shit, bro. I said I was gonna ignore it, but I can't, dude. I can't pull it off.
What's going on?
I'll stare at myself all day like I have a crush on myself. How are you, Fletch?
Good. I got mic check. Yeah, it was dead for a second.
Yeah, we got you.
Cool.
So we were saying, this is Marcus Aurelius. Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions. So, you know, one of the things I was reading about today is like the fact that like working at a desk job, like being tall like me, I hunch over and shit. When I die, a doctor is going to be able to actually tell that I worked at a desk because my spine has a curvature, right? It's the same thing with like prayer, meditation. By meditation, I mean writing. Well, it's like the secret, man. It's like, Corey, we had a conversation about prayer a little bit ago, but if I say a prayer and I listen to what I think after that, write that down, and I start thinking about this, if it's positive, I'm training my subconscious to be positive without me thinking about it. And I think this is a huge implication, or it has huge impact and import in business, because the people I know in this industry, they tend to not have as much anxiety as other people. They tend to not freak out about like the downs as much as other people. And I have a feeling that their thought processes are training their minds to be positive about situations. But I kind of wanted to get input from everybody before we get into SEO and stuff today about that, and about basically.
I mean, after you've been kicked in the nuts by a few updates, or you've gone to the edge, the negative side of the edge, and then come back. I would assume it's easier to get through shit after that,
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's a huge part of it. It's like, seriously, like when I rolled the car, when I lost Lincoln, dude, like my son, like it took me to the edge of a lot of shit, and
I can imagine.
It made it so that there's not a lot that phases me anymore, dude. Like seriously, there's not a lot that can phase me anymore. And I think that that's a good point.
You say that until someone tests you,
Well, that's true. Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely. It depends on what happens. It depends on something that I've never thought could happen happens, and that changes, and we see, right? Fletch, what are your thoughts on kind of a couple things there? Like, go ahead.
No. I'm glad you led off with that and reread it for me when I jumped on. Like
we didn't get shit done before you got here. You're the reason that we're
well, I'm
talking
the
about
reason
it.
I brought the mustache, and
You did, yeah.
now we can get to work.
Yep.
Like, you know, there's kind of like, you know, the negative thinking, get down on yourself, and it can lead to anxiety or kind of, you know, these things that get set, and terminology you're using like subconscious, like it's all accessible in our brain and our mind when we go to those places and trigger those associations that make us feel a certain way. And then there's like the positive vibe, right? Positive thinking. It's like, oh, I can make this work no matter what. And either of those two things, you're kind of locked out from certain resources that are in your mind, that are experiences you have. There was something I read that was really about maintaining a neutral mind, and coming into each situation or each experience really kind of open to both sides of, I need to figure this out, and not really being too down or too up, where you've got all the resources available to you to be able to kind of pick things that you would be locked out from if you came in just as a positive thinker or as a negative, you know, kind of down on myself kind of situation that you might be in. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like Michael Jordan holding a grudge his entire career. He had to, if he didn't have anything to like hate you about, he would formulate that in his
Create
mind. So
something.
he used the negative side
Yes.
exceptionally well.
Dude, that
Yeah.
speech, bro. That speech,
The
dude.
Hall of Fame
awesome.
acceptance
Yeah.
speech, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
That is an amazing speech. I think I don't know if it was Ryan Holiday or I think it was Ryan Holiday that wrote a huge chapter about how that affect, like that whole speech, and that was pretty amazing to see the way that mind worked, dude. It's like not necessarily a healthy thing right there at all, but
No, he had a gambling addiction, everything, but it was just his level of competitiveness is just, you know, way above anyone that I know.
insanely, yeah, it was crazy, man. But see, it's weird. It's a good point though, because people take power in different things, man. Like, and I think that comes down to what we're talking about. Like, if you're focused on the negative, then that's going to have to be your source of the power. But I don't necessarily know that's a healthy way to do it, right? So
long term, it doesn't seem great. His eyes are turning really yellow, so maybe it's long term health
Yeah,
conditions.
it's hard to look at Jordan as like, oh man, you know, you got jaundice. Like, what's going on here, right?
Yeah, someone said he has a
yeah,
condition. A lot of people are assuming that it's a little too much tequila because he does like to drink, but
Yeah.
you never know. He could have a condition as well. You know, but
Well, he did what he
in
did,
the
right? There's no arguing with him winning,
yeah.
but there's like there's something maybe like you can win at a bigger game than potentially what you're playing at the moment.
Mhm.
I think
It's like
finding enemies, which is what he did. Like he was able to
yes,
pit himself and draw more strength from being able to find draw on all the resources he had because he was trying to beat something, right? And in a way, we all have that, right? We all have this. I'm going to win.
I know I have it. I've
Yep.
used it to propel forward quite a few times. Mike has seen it a few times. I was like, oh, he fucked up. You know?
Yeah. Now
he
it's
woke
on.
up.
It's on.
This fucking Tasmanian devil. That's the closest one I'd be for Looney Tunes, right? Is a Tasmanian devil.
yeah,
Either that or
you are
he's Looney
definitely
Tunes.
Taz,
of
bro.
destruction.
Yeah.
You're definitely
Yeah.
Taz, and I've seen you turn that on and off. Like, you have the ability to turn it on and off. Like, I think where it becomes very unhealthy is when it's on and you can't stop it. You know,
We have worked with people like that.
yes,
too.
we have. Absolutely, dude.
Not fun.
Dave Key said something really cool. Clear thinking is the opposite of blind acceptance of norms, and he mentioned perception. And I think that what we're talking about, training your mind in a certain way, it allows you to build your perception and actually think about how, like, when you start to reflect like this and you start to train your mind like this, then the perceptions that different people have in different situations become easier to see, I think, which makes business a lot easier if you can understand why someone is saying what they're saying to you. We all basically take all of this input, and every brain processes this input differently, right? And if we want to change how we process the input we get, we have to do it in the way that kind of we're talking about here by, if you call it, if you're religious, people pray. People that practice philosophy, they write, they meditate, right? But these things that all go to the same thing as The Secret, where you are training your brain in a certain way to think in a certain way to weather your world, and it impacts how you interact with everyone around you, in my opinion.
Well, so Mike, what you said, I want to draw attention to it, because it's like you are training your brain, right? So you're not your brain, right? You have some influence on what you're paying attention to, what you have access to, all these kinds of things. And something somewhat recently, have to be kind of like really accepting of the fact that I saw this a long time ago and I didn't really pay attention to it. But you've got to be the person that navigates the way your brain operates. And you've got to train it to see things either as in flow, which we're doing here when we're talking. And once you open your mouth and start talking, things are just going the way they go. But there's other ways of thinking as well, right? Where you take yourself out of the flow and realize you can get into a different flow that might be more helpful, or even look at your norms of what you'll even consider as something you can do or would be helpful, and really challenge that, and being able to kind of navigate the different ways your mind can work, and start to train and hone and create habits for that, is really at the core of any kind of success methodology that you might encounter, right? It's not to say that just working harder is not going to help you optimize the single variable that you're working in, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to be the one responsible for and most influential in being able to get yourself out of these different kind of modalities of thinking. I got the girls in here real quick. I'll mute this.
Hey, ladies.
No worries at all.
So,
dude, I think what one of the things that, and something that really worked for me is I went really deep into Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And one of the things that I found that really helped me out is that, understanding that, like Fletch said, you are not your thoughts, you're not your brain, you are the witness of your thoughts. And I realized that what an affliction it is to not be able to stop the incessant train of thought going on inside of your mind. It's a terrible affliction. So in order to stop that, it's you as the witness of your thoughts. All you're doing is you're kind of separating yourself from your thoughts and from your mind, and you're becoming the witness. And as soon as you do that, you enter the present moment. You become aware of your thoughts. You become aware of your surroundings. And as soon as you acknowledge these thoughts that are causing anxiety or depression or anything that is not optimal for you, that's those thoughts that cause that dense energy inside of your chest, that dense negative energy,
like taxes.
like taxes, yeah, right. So when those thoughts come up, I mean, all you do is you acknowledge those thoughts, and then and you accept them. And you listen to what is it that they're trying to say. Is there something that I can do about it right now? No. Then don't worry. Is there something that I can do about it right now? Yes. Then don't worry. So no matter what happens, like the end of it is still don't worry, whether or not you can do something about it. But then again, just acknowledging those thoughts, and then and it's sort of like he describes it as a cat waiting outside of a mouse hole for a mouse to come out. That's you, the witness of your thoughts. And as soon as that thought comes in, you grab it and you acknowledge it, and then release it. And that is enough just to bring your mind present and just think, well, my mind's trying to screw me over again. And
so Tom should have done to Jerry.
What's that? Yeah.
Tie that into our industry. I mean, at the beginning, when I was making sites and I started to make money, and then I would lose sites or I would get penalized or something would happen and traffic would go down. It was a roller coaster for sure, dude. And I will say I adapted very quickly to this because of the way I think. My wife took years to adapt to the fact that maybe I just don't need to have I can actually just stop. I walk out of my career if I want to, whenever, because the ups and downs that come with what we do, and that can come with it, that don't necessarily come all the time. But it is something that I think is important to address early in someone's path and early in someone's career, that there will be these negative things, and you have to be like mentally fit. You have to be mentally healthy.
Tough. You have to be tough, mentally tough.
Yeah, you have to be fit mentally. It's like a police officer who's going to a shots fired call, or going into a traffic stop, where any traffic stop is just like a freaking home entry. You don't know what you're walking into, and you have to be ready to deal with that. Not shoot the person who's innocent, and be ready if someone freaking pops you in the hand, you know? Like, you just need to be prepared for the negatives that can come with any aspect of our business, I think. I mean, it goes for every aspect of life.
Well, yeah, Mike, like one of the things you mentioned there that I think is really important, and it's something I've considered too. It's like, if I want to walk away from this and go do a completely different career, I've got the ability to make money in different ways, but I'm going to take myself with me. And whether I'm a mechanic, turning wrenches or fixing a house or whatever else I might do, these situations are going to come up. And if I'm, mastering, or at least paying attention to and getting better at being able to like navigate your own mind and influence it in certain ways, or thinking about things in a different modality or way, they're going to benefit you no matter what. And if you can't make it work in this, what's to say that you could make it work when you have a boss and you have to a corporate dress policy, and you have to hold the handrails when you walk downstairs? Like, we see things as greener because we don't consider the fact that these things are they're kind of part of interacting with other beings, and they're going to come up. And so to me, this kind of opportunity with the internet and what we all do is the best place to get yourself trained to do these things, because there are less rules, which means you need a little more discipline and awareness of your own self, because no one's going to impose it upon you, right? There's not going to be a rule that if you just follow it, somehow you're going to make money and get a paycheck and all this kind of thing. And after a year, you're going to be like, oh, I can't believe they make us do all these things. But like in this world, you can judge your own success by your own success.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting you say that, because like this is an example. Like Brad and I were talking to someone recently. They made $300,000 last month, right? But they broke even. They spent $300,000 to get there, right? And
they were doing paid ads, but yeah,
it's paid. But here's the thing: is that those types of things happen, and it's an eye opener, and you need to be able to look at those things that are like, if you go from, profiting 300,000, then you have 3 months of us like breaking even and just making ends meet, but you're bringing in this kind of revenue. You have to be able to go, okay, this is definitely, first off, not be worried and not be anxious, so that it's killing your ability to analyze critically, essentially, and then make a decision to go, then make a decision basically to fix it and go spend more money, right? And go do something.
It takes some balls to do that, to break even on 300,000.
Well, it's scary. It's scary because the stakes are higher. Right? You're right at the edge of that cliff, and you could fall off very quickly and wind up on the negative side of things. Whereas if you're really not in a game that has high stakes or higher stakes than you're used to, the downside's not really enough to bring all your resources to look at the situation and figure out what to do to make sure you're, almost guarantee you win, because the loss doesn't matter that much to you. And so it's like, I'll just go watch some TV or, fart around and eat, a cake or whatever it might be. The stakes, when you're the person you look at in the mirror and the only person you can hold responsible, it's like, it's all on you. Yep. And so in that way, it's a really good kind of training ground or a place to hone your ability to manage your own self, manage your own actions. That I think I
like
in one
to put
way
on the 8 Mile soundtrack, and then have a hoodie, and then just spaghetti, and then I go out and I rattle my kid, I kill him, and then I feel
when you got that bounce to you, you're like, oh,
he doesn't know what's getting ready to hit
doing
him.
Yeah.
Like,
I would I would imagine on an instance like that it was a slow road to get to 300K of spend to break even on that. So maybe
No, it was
it was
actually an instant. It was a change in something, and they went from making profiting around 300, 400K a month down to breaking even.
Okay.
That's what's
Big
scary
time
about
media
paid.
buyers, $20,000 spend sometimes in Facebook, those kind of things, right? And but the thing is, the same person is the type of person that I know he'd much rather work his ass off and get a huge chunk of change than stay steady, work a 9 to 5, and
right, of course.
a paycheck. It's just not
Yeah.
the way he wants to live his life. And I get it, because honestly, there's not many things that would make me want to work a 9 to 5 and have a steady paycheck just because I wanted a steady paycheck.
The steady paycheck would have to be pretty significant, and there would probably be, for me, some type of buyout situation where maybe a venture I was involved in got bought out.
Yes.
I got a chunk of money, and then I got a paycheck after that. That would essentially be the only.
We know you walk the
Wait,
corner.
I know.
You'll sell yourself for money. Yes, we understand.
Just for fun, I can't find anyone to buy
Everything
it,
has a price. Everything has a price.
No, but realistically,
sure.
that's I think that's arisen in around us where the sale's going. If you stick around for a year or two, and sometimes, dude, that's more than worth it to get the sale freaking finished, right?
Right, but like Brad said, though, I mean, the reason why we don't work a 9 to 5 is, I mean, as the saying goes, you know too much. But what is that knowing too much? And that is when you apply your own billion-dollar brain and knowledge to your own life and to your own skills and start applying some things and applying yourself. That you understand that profits are way better than wages. So once you make that shift and you start thinking like that, then you start like we discussed last week. Okay, if I could make what I used to earn in a year, if I could do that in a month, can I do that again? What I make this month, can I for this entire year, can I do that in a month? And that's disciplining yourself. It's not letting your negative thoughts take over, because you can get stuck in a rut doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And then so what is that next level? And I think that everybody here who's watching this is interested in growing your profits, growing your business. Grow, and just exactly like you said, Craig. You cannot get wealthy. You don't get rich by like saying I'm gonna give up Starbucks, 4 Starbucks a month and invest it in something. That's not the way.
If you don't have the skills and you're just getting started, I would skip the Starbucks and invest it in something. But long term, it's not going to build massive wealth. It's like Charlie Munger says, the first 100 grand is a bitch. But after that, it gets a hell of a lot easier. Scrimp and save and get your 100 grand and then invest it. And it kind of snowballs from there.
Well, it's so true. It's like Craig. Craig's right there talking right now, and it's like thinking about how he buys and flips properties, man. When you're first starting out, like when you don't have the capital to go out and buy something with a significant monthly return that you can actually make profit off of and then grow and flip, you got to sacrifice those Starbucks until you have the ability to actually
either that or get really good at collecting other people's money. OPM,
Yes, and then OPM's great. Yeah. Now here's the thing, like it's to the point in me, it might not be responsible, but I'd much rather have the time and I'd much rather break even, pay my bills, be at home and not work for someone else than actually make money. That's just me. And I'm not saying that's an outlook people should take, but I think that has made me able to take a lot more risk than I would have otherwise, because the goal for me is time, not necessarily the monetary return or the commercial return, right?
Also, you've got to define what you consider wealth as well. Is wealth having enough passive income that comes through? And like Cam said, Illinois pensions may argue that you could be wealthy on an Illinois pension. I don't know. It probably depends on your job. But like my grandpa, when he retired, he was on a Kentucky pension, probably not as good as Cam's Illinois pension. But he was, bringing in 90 grand a year and spending way less than that. So, and then he had his IRA and all that shit that he had invested, and retires with as much money or passes away with as much money as or more than when he retired, because it just kept coming in. He had a $300 apartment. It was a shit apartment, but he liked it because it was close to the golf course. and he was happy, you know? So I think at some point you've got to define what wealth means to you as well.
It's 100% true. And the attitude aspect is so important because like I look at like Craig Campbell, dude, he's a big inspiration. Like look what happened with the pandemic. The dude decided to just do something because all this shit happens, right? And he's like the highest subscriber base in Scotland at this point, a year later, because dude, I'm just gonna go rock this. You make me think. I know which Craig you are, but you make me think of Craig Campbell, dude.
Well, because they've got similar like picture things.
It's the same pictures, bro.
They have the same name. I mean,
and but seriously,
that could be too.
Like Craig Campbell, like that's something that he decided to do instead of being like, oh shit, what's going to happen? My agency, people aren't going to pay bills, blah blah blah. I don't know if he was working the agency at the time, but let's say he was, or he was running it, hopefully. But instead of getting down, you know, he did that. Brad and I looked at it like opportunity because it's time to diversify. You know, we did SEO Rockstars or SEO whatever that was.
Yeah, it was SEO, NFG SEO Rockstars, whatever the fuck we called it. But it was the NFG event with Dory. And it was NFG Rockstars. So
and so it was this year we talked about diversification and these. I think when you have the right attitude, these types of situations, when the negative situations happen and the world's going crazy, the right people have the right positive outlook, and it means money. It means wealth at that point. It really does when you have the right outlook. You can spin it many, many ways if you're still breathing.
I mean, look how many companies just blew up during the pandemic in a good way.
Yeah. On that note, I mean, for those of us in our industry, like this is prime time for we're going to have a really good run for the next several years because now more than ever, businesses realize the importance of a strong online presence. The month of the pandemic, like when it was March of last year, I think that was I signed more clients than I ever have in a single month, and they were all referrals. You know, just looking at it, okay, where are the opportunities? Obviously, whenever something changes at a global level, there's going to be opportunities, and then there's going to be losses. So you know, just keeping your eye open for those opportunities. And just like Craig did, like he looked at it and understood, like, and I think that he kind of decentralized everything that he was doing, didn't he, Mike? And like he
I don't know. You know what? I know that I don't know how big of a shift it was, a required shift, or he just decided to shift. But yes, it did seem like
he definitely got bored. I feel like because he had all his other shit automated and automated like from people. Yeah, like, he could give a shit. He doesn't have to work.
No, he doesn't have to do what he's doing. He does it because he enjoys it, and he really does like helping people, man. Like,
he does.
I've had enough conversations with him that he really enjoys what he's doing, and I get it because it is nice to see. Over the years, it's been nice to see people come in and become more successful, dude. It's encouraging to me in my business, and that's the kind of people I want my kids to be around when they're older. So why not help facilitate that kind of growth, right?
Right.
It's positivity, man.
So, hey, Mike, let me ask one question then. And I think this is appropriate, and I'd like to hear everybody's kind of opinion on it. But, you know, when we start to realize that it's about opportunities we create, right? We create value by solving in a certain way problems that exist. And with search engine optimization and Google being what they are in the terms of service, that's a norm.
We violate all the time.
That's yes, exactly. Right. That's the thing that keeps a lot of people from actually acting on, no, this is my property. I can do with it what I want, sort of thing. And, you know, the slaps might come, but it's just different than adhering to the rules and the things that we've been told. Like, this is all you can do. This is you have to exist within these tight
this
boundaries.
box.
Right. This box. Exactly. And say, well, what if I don't? Right. What if I make all my money on Yahoo ads or, you know, DuckDuckGo or whatever it might be? Like there are so many different ways of looking at this sort of thing, but you have to be able to navigate that. You've got to be able to look at things from a different perspective of, well, what if I didn't believe the things I've been taught? Right. And so I've been taught this stuff by, you know, reading a little cursory stuff about terms of service from Google or GMB or whatever it might be. Like, what if I didn't believe that? What other opportunities are there for me to apply the skills and knowledge I have to get in front of traffic that will buy my stuff? And SEO in a certain way, I think is really illustrative of people saying, yeah, that's what you say, but I've done this other thing, and it's not really like I can break the rules all I want, and I don't really have to have a repercussion, so to speak, in line with what I believe, if I just kind of follow the party line, so to speak. In my experience with search engine optimization, if you did what Google told you to do, it's going to be expensive to get results, and the results are not going to be very impactful.
It's definitely not going to be quick.
And it's not going to be quick either. And so you're then you have to consider who you're working for. And if you're doing things that way, you have a job where somebody's told you the rules.
Right, exactly.
And that's what you're playing to.
Well, and the thing you have to have, is a certain disdain for Google that you must have if you're going to be a good SEO.
Yeah.
So and there's plenty of it out there. If you want some fuel, just hit any of us up, and we'll give you plenty of reason to have some solid disdain. So I mean, Google was a DARPA project to begin with. So there's enough for you.
Well, I mean, it's the.
Did you hear what they're doing with affiliate? I saw Clint posted it yesterday.
How to do everything anytime.
Well, they're talking about hijacking the featured snippets, and the link that you click to goes to essentially an affiliate link or something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is what I mean. This is a lot of what AMP is. They definitely it's browser wars all over.
Stealing the traffic. Yeah.
They just recently launched the blog or product, whatever, that's how to do everything. I mean, literally, this is like the shit that they're talking about. They're telling people how to do everything, right? I forget what. Let me see if I can find it.
Google's always tried to tell people exactly how to do everything.
This is insane, though. How to do everything.
It's essentially telling people how to make Google more money and have
that's it. It's absolutely. They want rules in there because they don't need you to do anything but give them content. They're a curation engine. They want your content to generate traffic, to generate ad revenue. It is literally a great scam of user-generated content. That's what Google is.
Exactly.
It's like what we've done on Just Lux with the community section, which is you can post content. At first, they got do follow links when we got penalized. Then we took away do follow links. Now it's just traffic and authority. But now in that situation, some of the highest traffic pages are people's content that they've published on our site that I can now take that traffic and do what I want with it and make money with it because someone put the content on my site, right? So that's just what Google's doing. It's no different than anybody else out there. So why not give people a rule set to use that makes it comfortable for them?
It's like people putting out a course, and all the course is teaching you how to use their tools.
Yes, it happens all the time in the industry.
Yeah, you're putting out a course to show people how they can make you more money.
Cam always shows me how to use Skype because it's his tool.
Yeah, I didn't think Cam had a tool.
I learned my skills from that. I do have some SEO questions today if we want to address any.
What's
of
SEO?
I know, what is SEO?
SEO is dead. It's dead.
A good read that I've been going through. This dude's put out a bunch of tech stuff. It's called Post Corona. Scott Galloway. I just started it this morning, but I bought the audiobook so I could have something to listen to in the car and shit. But it's interesting. Yeah. Well, I never really listened to you anyway, so I figure instead of sitting there listening to silence,
nodding your head.
Yeah.
You tell me,
even though you can't see me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can hear it rattle.
So there was a question about using third-party tools like Moz, and can people tell if I connect my analytics account, can I be detected by Google? And my answer to that is if you connect your analytics account to multiple domains, yes, they can tell that you're the same person.
Not, analytics, AdSense, anything like that,
I mean, the font API can figure things.
So that's actually speaking to an interesting situation where, you're trying to avoid a footprint, so to speak, right, with SEO, but you want to be detected by Google.
Yes, you do. Transparency is key.
And so you have to find in there the distinction of, I want to be recognized, but I don't want it to bleed over into these other projects and wind up getting penalized, right? And so,
Yep.
so understanding that is like, oh, that's huge, right? Fonts, Google Fonts, you talked about, like, it's easy to get indexed.
If they want to find you,
by
they
loading
can.
a font and saying, oh, this page loaded and it requested a resource and I got to crawl because of that. Like, that's a good thing, but you want to be able to draw that line so it doesn't bleed over into other projects and you wind up looking like, you know, somebody that's kind of spamming the whole system.
Looking like a fool with your pants on the ground.
I'll let you do the rapping, Brad. I'm good.
There you go.
I'll just bounce my head. Yeah, we're good.
Spaghetti.
No, it's Google's interesting. Just because, I mean, I don't know. It's the transparency is absolutely key in a lot of areas, and what the conversations we've had, the systems we've developed over the last like 10 years are all about delivering transparency where it is important and where you need to have it on the first tier. But there are some times where you definitely don't want to connect certain things. It really comes down to like what you're doing in your marketing. Like most major brands, when they come out and they want to buy like a network or they want to buy microsites, they want to connect this. They want the brand awareness, and they want to multi-touch you like your uncle. But no, really though, like we had this conversation with someone yesterday, and it's something that we taught in Web Traffic Takeover years ago, is that SEO is literally a way to bring in and establish your list so that you can touch people in multiple places during the journey. You can be there with all types of intent. I mean, this is why, you know, intent's a big topic now, but intent's been a big topic for us forever, because it's extremely important to know when you're actually capturing those eyes, man. Like, and that's why understanding intent and relevance, I think, is just the most important. Like some of the most, I can't say the most important, but two of the most important things that you can actually grasp in SEO is because you're going to rank better if you understand intent. You're going to rank better if you understand relevance, and you're going to convert better with both of them as well.
And Mike, I think so. I think sometimes that just, you know, talking intent can make people go cross-eyed. I'll comment what I think that means and kind of what it looks like, but then I'd like to hear your thoughts on how to actually go about that. So a huge thing that is just staring us right in the face that probably all of you guys already know about is, you know, the people also ask box. Hopefully everybody that is, you know, in this watching this understands that. But if you don't, there's all kinds of intent coming, you know, right there. People also ask, whenever you Google something, Google's showing you a huge amount of intent. You got 4 questions right there, and every time you click one, a couple more come up. So the intent could be research related. It could be for the most part. What's that?
I said, is that new?
It was like 6 years ago.
It was, but I mean, but when you talk about intent though,
no, absolutely,
like, you know, like that can be confusing. Like, well, how am I supposed to SEO for intent? Like, where do you even start with that? So
you want to name the 4 types of intent for people that are new in the audience, dude? Or should I just run it off and shot it off? So intent, literally, we can kind of generalize in this. I do believe there's more than this, but you've got informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional, right? So basically, one of the good examples is like, I want to start cloaking. I'm going to start looking for information. I might start looking at like, what is cloaking? You've got informational content. Consent, content, intent. So, and then when you're getting into like,
if I'm looking for an affiliate course, I would type in best SEO and affiliate marketing course in the planet, please.
I would too. That's exactly what I would type in.
You've got to ask. But then you got to ask.
Research.
Yeah,
you're literally now you're going, okay,
for that.
What are the top 5 cloaking utilities out there? Right now, you're getting a little bit closer in the informational shit. And then you're getting into, you say you find one of them and you want to find out like what the pricing is. You go and you do something like Cloaking Tool 1 pricing, and that's a navigational query right there, right? And this all reinforces.
Review, yeah.
Yeah, and this all reinforces different parts of, I mean, even pricing. Like, it enforces different parts of the brand. It enforces, it reinforces different parts of quality score. And then you get into commercial is like, take, let's say top cloaking tools, whatever. And then you get into transactional, which is like buy cloaking tool number 1, right? And you're not going to rank for buy cloaking tool number 1 without some tricks on an informational page, right? Like, you're just not going to have the conversion and everything you need there to really maintain a large, nice ranking for a transactional query or a commercial query if it is not something you offer in most cases. Now, I will say with cloaking and with other tactics, you can maintain ranking like that. But in general, if you're creating a content plan, you're going to be not necessarily going after buy this if you're just an informational site. It's a
So
decision.
Mike, have you seen intent change for the same query over time?
All the time.
So how do you, and I think that this has a lot to do with, like, when when there's a massive update, is that a lot of it is around intent. You have different types of pages that end up ranking for the same keywords after there's a big shift in the algorithm.
They reclassify queries like I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I've sat there with Cam and you, I think, watching them reclassify freaking queries, dude.
So like, how do you approach that?
I mean, you need to be tracking your SERPs, dude. You need to be watching what's continuing to rank. I mean, that's the only way I can answer that for me, I guess.
Or keep shitting out new content all the time.
Well, that's what I mean. You need to be watching the SERPs and making sure that your content and your offers are hitting that intent for those queries, in my opinion. So, what about you, Corey?
Well, I think, because like you have, let's say you have a page that's optimized for a particular query that's selling product. Your number 1 spot, Google shuffles the deck, you drop to page 2, and this has happened to me a few times, and I've just been like, oh crap. Well, I've got another page that I look at all the top results, and it's more of like an informational query, like people are trying to get information on the topic. So then I've got another page that I'll switch some of the relevancy, do some internals to it, and it'll jump up, but it just kind of moves back and forth. So matching the intent, I don't know if it has to be like to get back to that number 1 spot with the same domain. Do you completely rewrite the content? Do you scrap the page, start a new one, like 301 the old one over to it, like that? That has always been something that I have found.
Well, if you're doing clusters, though, I mean, and say the intent shifts to the primary article to one of the secondaries, then you theoretically could go in there and just juice up the and expand upon the one supporting that then matches, and then you don't have as much work to do.
Will you guys talk about the concept I've seen tossed around about cannibalization and how that plays into what we're talking about right now?
So the Brad hit on that, in my opinion. Like, there's certain times when you're going to exclude keywords from pages, right? So cannibalization happens when you're not doing that properly, in my opinion. If you have a primary page and you're bringing up a lot of keywords for that primary page, and there's a reason for that intent, that keyword to be shifted off, and that's usually around page 2. In my opinion, and that might be you're removing a keyword off of that primary page now, and it's going on to one of the supports, or if there's a decision that you need to make for conversion that's a new page. The point is that you have all this page rank already on your site, right? And you can change your template so that your modular links focus that in certain areas. Corey, in your situation, right? You might shift the navigation, the main navigation might now need to change based on what you've determined in that SERP. Like, if you've seen them start to flux, well, now you need to start shifting the page rank to the right place. And that's how I see it. For conversion, I don't necessarily know if you're going to redirect the page or if you're going to flow the page rank differently through the architecture. But that's kind of how I see it and how I look at it and how I attack it.
And if you're looking at cannibalization, I'm trying to think of an example that would be like top 10 stock tips, or top 10 stocks under $10 versus top 10 stocks under $5. Do you think there's an issue with cannibalization between those two topics, Mike, or do you think they still are separate? Yeah, I guess it's a fine line when it comes to cannibalization. Like we noticed it quite a bit when we were doing a ton of mass page, where it was like, keyword plus city 1, keyword plus city 2, 30,000 times. You see it there, where I think if it's touching on a different subtopic of the same subject, then you don't have to worry about it as much.
You might have a primary in that situation where you have top stocks, and it talks about it's got to navigate an anchor nav, it's got a jump nav of like under 5, under 10, under freaking 15, blah 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 blah, and it's all on one page, and you start to pull up, and then it's time to like shift that top 10 under 10 to its own freaking support. And now it's its own page, and it's removed off of that primary, put into its own support. You're utilizing your anchors back and forth to kind of maximize this here, but you're shifting the relevance and the page and the intent for the page. The same way I see intent and relevance as like attacking it in the same manner, to be honest. It's really about how the page is performing with the best way I can relate it, I think, is through conversion. And what's on the top of the SERPs technically is probably converting the best out of all the pages available in most cases for the users that hit that page, right? I mean, that's kind of the general concept or theory of SEO. Okay.
Hey, Mike. Yeah. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you see conversion. One of the things, just to kind of seed this a little bit, I see any kind of click through on a link on the page as conversion versus clicking back as not converting.
Right.
And so you can just draw that line there as far as I can see right now. If you're getting a click to move further down in the page nav or to a different page, that's conversion. And if you're getting a back or a bounce, you're not converting. And so you that's really what you want to look at as far as a metric goes, as far as how that page is converting, right?
Well,
how it's feeding information that
you can even have a conversion set for like an image loading.
Yes.
Or somebody scrolling, like anything like that. So you can set that stuff up in Tag Manager to where you literally have like a 0 bounce rate. And all you got to do is just make sure that you've got some real obvious conversion actions. If a human hits it and they do any kind of action, you can even, on some cases, you can even do like a hover over as a conversion. So, and those things, if you're telling Google that is what you are counting as a conversion, then they'll see that. If you're not even tracking your conversions, if you're selling something, then how's Google going to know that it's converting, that people are even buying anything from you? Like they're not.
And they're relying on like things like literally like dwell time and bounce back into the SERPs and visiting multiple pages instead of seeing actual data. They're a big data company. We have to give them data, dude. And this goes back to the transparency comment we made earlier. Corey hit it right on the head, is that we need to give them as much data as possible. I mean, this is what the fake sandbox that doesn't exist is. It's just they don't have any freaking data to freaking rank you off of, Like once they get data, you're going to start ranking, dude. It's not like they're putting you somewhere and waiting on you for freaking, 90 days or something all the time. They want data. You need to give them data all the time. I mean, it's our job is to give Google data.
Yeah.
Kind of how I see it. Like our job is to make sure they know about our sites the way we want them to know about our sites, and to do the best we can and make that the best we can. So,
bless you.
Thank you.
Bless. It's interesting because I think that Brian Dean talked about literally he had a hard time ranking for SEO strategy, the term SEO strategy.
That one does sound like a tough one, yeah.
He did it, but he had to go back and reevaluate his intent completely and rewrite. He knew that, and he makes a good statement that I'm never going to rank for freaking buy a backlink checker, because he doesn't have a freaking tool. Like there's other companies out there that have a tool that can actually convert that like way better than we can, because we're just trying to convert the.
What was Jimmy trying to outrank Google for at some point? Was it keyword tool he was trying to outrank Google for? It was something
I think it was that.
Yeah, he'd take a big puff off of his e-cig, chuckle, and then talk about, but yeah, I think it was when one of the Nashville events he was talking about, I'm going to outrank Google for keyword tool. And I think it's when he was working with Network Empire. So of course they did have a small tool, Network Empire had a small tool for keywords.
Did he do it?
I have no fucking clue. I think he was on page like 2 or 3, but I don't.
That's what's kind of interesting is that people still went to Google to
Mhm.
find the thing. And so this really speaks to what Google has done, is to really convince the masses to come to google.com to get their answer.
Yep.
Versus go to Network Empire to get their answer.
Mhm.
Right.
That's
Their
what,
long play has been beautiful, man. Their long play and their strategy
Yeah.
has been gorgeous.
Really a long play. Yep.
I mean, like literally, like I can truly believe they sat down and determined how they can get people to seek content on their property all the time, always. Got people to give them the content for free, and they have a beast, dude.
Yeah.
They're making money.
Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are both made comments that they are scared of Google. Like, you get out of their way, essentially.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah.
No,
and they're like our parents. You know, who do you go to when you're a little kid and you've got a question? You know.
Yep. I got a
you go to your
boo-boo.
parents.
I need to kiss it.
Yeah, I just got diagnosed with XYZ, or these are my things. You don't go directly to WebMD, you know. You go to Google, and then you go to WebMD, just like Fletch just mentioned. So
well, navigational. This is why navigational queries are so freaking interesting to me, is because people will literally go and type in NFG SEO login page or freaking Facebook login page. Like, they don't go to Facebook and look for it. They go to Google to find it.
Because
Did you see the #1 query for 2020 on Bing was Google?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if you ever want to feel useless, here's a
yeah, exactly.
I always joked with my cousin. He launched, you know, he was Firefox lead, dude, and that browser had Google in the front, and I was like, dude, you just got to put my AdSense code in there for like 4 hours, dude. Like 4 freaking hours, bro.
We got our boat. We're all good. We're done. Yeah.
Like,
it's like
no,
Wolf of Wall Street.
You're going to prison and shit, but seriously though, like that much, it's in browsers. Like, you use it as
There's no way in fuck they would let you keep that AdSense money, though.
No, you would lose it so quickly.
You would get skimmed like a mother, you know.
Oh yeah, they'd skim the crap out of you, dude.
Yeah, they would. Yeah. I've seen too many people try and game it. And I mean, official people, I mean, like real people that are not gaming the system and doing everything that they should, they still get skimmed like a mother.
Oh yeah.
You know, or their account down for no reason.
Order, dude,
yeah.
On the projection.
Yeah. If they need to make up some lost revenue, I wholeheartedly think that they do that. And that's why, you know, that's why I would invest in Google, because I know how much power they have. It's insane.
Oh, it's
you know?
nuts, dude.
Like, we were on that call yesterday, and the guy was bringing up Apple, and I didn't want to, you know, go way off topic, but he's like, Apple, I do Apple this, Apple that. I was like, bro, Google, you know, like, I agree, Apple's a beast, but, you know, they don't have the moat that Google does, I don't think, especially in the, you know, ad realm. You know, Amazon might be catching up because they're more diversified. You know, they've got AWS, they got all the other shit, and you know, all of the extraneous shit that Google does only accounts for about 15% of their revenue as a whole. Where AWS and stuff, it's more spread out. I think Amazon is what, 50% of their e-com, a big chunk of AWS, stuff like that. So, but yeah, Google that's what they fucking do, you know, is ads. So.
Oh yeah, no, they got their game down. Like, the whole boat's being missed by a lot of people on some of the APIs, some of the patents they have out there. Like, I was talking to you today, Brad. I actually need to have a call with you about this, because there's some really interesting shit going on, and it keeps popping back up and back up. But like, cloaking, like, technology that is not really talked about like right now. Or used quite a bit, that is a whole nother aspect to context and content and personalization. More manipulative, I would say, than personalization, but it's very interesting. Like, it's still an amazing industry. I think we're lucky to be in this and have been in this in the time frame we have, because it's definitely always a changing beast that is continuously, like, things are dropping off, becoming illegal. Like, it's fun to like see it happen and be a part of it. I think. I don't think,
you know, Corey brought up the disdain that many SEOs have, and I feel like it's because we know they're dirty, but I feel like it's a love-hate relationship because of that. Okay, they're a little dirty. I could see myself in them. You know, I think most SEOs are slightly dirty. You know, no offense to any SEOs that don't consider themselves a little bit, you know, gray black hat. but most, if not all, are.
Well, most of them, the white hat ones that I've known that have been like, I turn people in, I do this and that, like they end up having a site they've worked on for 5 years
Dude,
that
they're
crashes
shitheads.
and then they're changed, dude. Then they're a different story, you know?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah.
like circling back around it, like one of the things I spoke on, like when I just came on today, is that as SEOs, we are able to navigate to the point where we realize that if we put certain conditions in place, we're going to rank. And people who are doing the searches are still kind of locked in that like action, like in the flow. Like I go to Google, I type in a thing, I get the answer, and I act on it, right? And
Yeah.
so we've got a little bit of ability to navigate to a different perspective and see things a little differently. Whereas when you're in the flow, if you're just using Google, you don't understand search engines and what you're doing, you're just kind of in the flow of your own actions and realizing like I got a kid screaming, like, what do I do about this? Right. Do I discipline? Do I understand?
I need an answer.
Like whatever. Right. And so when you're in the flow of that, you don't, there's no ability for you as a conscious being to navigate to a place where you get a different perspective. And with SEO, you have at least one level of that, right?
Yep.
And so we see things differently than people who just use Google to find answers to their questions. And so there's multiple layers you can go to check yourself on what you're doing and what you're really like in the flow with, or what you're in the box of, like how you look at things and what you're doing. That I think it is kind of like this this like wedge that you can start to use to realize, wait, there's a different way I can look at this and ask a different question and not just a different question to Google, like a search query, but like,
well, yeah, definitely.
I can consider this differently and realize a completely different perspective on what I'm putting my resources into as far as like strategy goes and success and all that kind of thing. And yeah, I think that's it's something that might be overlooked by some, but it's really, really important for you to realize that you've got this kind of behind the scenes, and then there's like a behind the scenes and a behind the scenes and a behind the scenes. And when you can not just realize those, but move to each of them and realize like, oh, this gives me a lot more options on where I put my effort. That's really what lets you make this radical shift.
As long as you can see the, I'm not saying we see the truth, but we do see the lies at least enough to ask questions, or the falsities, whatever you want to call them. As long as you can see that the fact that you should be asking questions, that kind of, I think, unlocks what you're talking about. And I think we have that opportunity in this industry to know that absolutely everything has to be questioned that we see online. Like literally everything has to be questioned that we see online. Your thoughts on SMM panels for YouTube and CTR manipulation? Now everyone says SMM panels aren't good, but I feel like if we're combined with CTR and organic, anyone have an input on that?
I don't do a ton of YouTube stuff. Mike, you've done more, YouTube.
I don't even know if I know what SMM is. Anyone know what that shit is?
I would assume it means social media management, but
is that what it is? Like,
again, that's me because I'm naive in a lot of this.
I mean, that makes sense,
I'm not familiar with that. I don't do a whole lot on YouTube either. But I mean,
no, I don't know what
if you figured it out.
Well, one of the things I think it applies to is intent, right? It is if someone is looking for a certain YouTube channel or a certain search phrase that entire channel is built out on, right? And a channel meaning YouTube or maybe even Facebook.
Oh, I see what you're saying, dude.
That's
okay, I get what you meant there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff that I do. Where was the question again? I get what you're talking about, dude. Dude, here's the thing, man. There's some stuff that works extremely well. Yes, organic and CTR, all of this combined, it's all going into the same bucket, dude. Like if you have a gut feeling about something in there, I'm going to say go with it, because what people say doesn't work, again, like what we were just talking about, I've seen this shit work. So I would
I
not
seen it.
just listen. So,
Hey, Mike, we gotta wrap it up.
oh yeah, we gotta get on that webinar
right.
right now. Okay, guys, I gotta go. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
SEO.com/7 if you want to hop on the other webinar. But yeah, we gotta.
I'll put it in there. Go ahead and launch it, Brad. I'll be right there.
All right, cool. Peace out.
Cool.
So if you guys can jump into that right there. If you want to jump on the student webinar, we're doing a paid webinar right now. You're all welcome. You can get in there through that link.
I'll jump in there for a second. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
See you guys.
Ron, thanks, Mike.